Hi. You got something to say? We're matching right now. We're both wearing black and white. Welcome back to the channel. Hi everyone. Good morning. How are we today? If you have been here before, welcome back. If you haven't been here before, hi. My name is Cameron. It's so lovely to have you here. And this is kind of my channel where I talk about what I read and all sorts of bookish sorts of things. This is my cat. She's a menace. So, what are we talking about today? Well, I'm not talking about a book in particular. I post a lot of shorts, so you should definitely go check those out. But I have been posting shorts about audiobooks for various amounts of time, or how much I've been reading, or fill in the blank. And I've gotten a lot of comments of people talking about how they really struggle to read. They have a really slow reading pace. They would love to read more, but they're just too busy. So today I am making a fairly quick video about things you can do to get yourself into reading. So you want to start reading. Now you might be wondering, what is your authority here, Cameron? Tell us, why do you feel authorized to tell me how I can start reading? Well, as I was checking my phone today, I track my reading on an app called Bookly. This is not sponsored, I really like the app. But I track my reading. It keeps all of my stats. Let's see if you can even see that. I'll put a screenshot in probably. It keeps all of my stats, it keeps my reading streak, how much I've been reading. I can time my reading sessions. It does a lot of things and I really, really enjoy it. So I use it pretty dang religiously. But I realized as I finished my reading session up for the day that I hit 500 days of consecutive reading tomorrow. And in that time, I have finished 270 books. So, today, as a certified reader myself,
you know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
But I wanted to come in here today and tell you a few of the ways that I read so much. Now, as a disclaimer, I am not going to tell you that you need to pick up your reading pace. I have a very quick reading pace. Let's start off with that. I'm not going to fool you and be like, I read so slow and I was still able to finish this much, because that's not realistic or true. And I want to be honest with you guys. I am a very fast reader. And that's okay. Some people are very fast readers, some people are very slow readers. I've found that you read faster if you have lots of practice. So, someone might have to test me on that, but I think you can pick up your pace the more used to reading you are and how often you do it. Right out of the way, I'm not going to give you any tips on here's how you can pick up your reading pace, because that's not what I do, and I find that you can still read quite a bit with a lot of the tips I'm going to give you, even with a slow reading pace. So, that being said, I have 6 tips for you guys today on how I recommend reading a lot, I guess. How I got back into reading, because there was definitely a period of time, I think during high school and college, I want to say I was reading max 5 books a year. Max. I felt like I was too busy. I had other things I needed to be doing. I had started working close to full-time and being a full-time college student, so I felt like I had nothing, I didn't have the time or the reason to do it. But once I graduated college, I was like, I need to get a hobby. Because when you finish college, you go, oh shoot, people have free time. That's crazy. So, I got myself back into reading at age 21, 22, and this is how I did it. As I mentioned, I have read for 500 days straight. So the first thing I am going to tell you guys to do is build a habit. That was the big thing that got me into reading again. I set a goal for myself to read 30 minutes a day. That's all I needed, that was all. And I also allowed myself to do less than that. If I just had a really busy day and all I could read was one really quick chapter, then I was allowed to do that. But the point is, if you can get yourself reading, if you can do it for even a little bit every day, you're in a really good spot. I'm sure you could Google how long it takes to build a habit, but it's like 30-ish days. I didn't Google this, don't take my word for it. Look it up yourself. But it takes a bunch of days to make something a habit. But once you've made it a habit, you're gonna find it's much easier to make the time to read. Now, you might be saying, okay, I get the building the habit, I get that I don't have to do it for a lot of time, but I feel like I am just too busy. That's okay. It truly happens. That being said, the average person spends anywhere from 3 to 8 hours on their phone. That is insane. And that's based off of just like a very brief Google. I gave it such a wide range because a bunch of different sources are saying a bunch of different things, but 3 to 8 hours on their phone. So, if you are even dedicating 2 hours on your phone to something, whether it's just mindless scrolling when you're bored at work, or you just got home and you just need a breath of fresh air, there are times that are taken. I'm not going to dwell on this too much because I'm not going to judge you or your screen time habits, because I have horrendous screen time. And this honestly isn't something that works for everyone. Honestly, a lot of times when I want to decompress, I want to mindlessly scroll and not activate my brain at all. And that is okay. I'm not trying to shame anyone for using screens or needing to watch TV or gaming, because those are all valid ways to kind of chill out and or other hobbies you can have. But that is one possible way that I would recommend. Before I started reading, I was on my phone constantly. And now I just kind of carry a book with me. And if I have downtime or I'm sitting somewhere waiting for something, like I'm at a doctor's appointment or something, I'll take my book out and read. That's also another good tip. I didn't write it down as one of the 6, but bring a book with you. We'll call this 2.5, but bring a book with you if you have a Kindle, or if you have an audiobook on you, or if you physically have a paperback in your back pocket or in your bag. No shame in it. Honestly, the Kindle app is kind of a lifesaver, even if you're like using your phone. Maybe you're sitting there on AO3 or you're using the Kindle app to read a book. Either way, utilizing your downtime is a great way to find more time to read. Alright, and then my personal recommendation, because I didn't do this when I first started reading, but since I have started doing this at like the beginning of the year, I have found that I've been reading a lot faster, and that is utilizing audiobooks. I really like having audiobooks when I am doing something a little more mindless. Like obviously if I'm sitting there doing work, I can't really listen to an audiobook, but my big thing is I listen to audiobooks on my commute, or I will listen to it when I'm cooking or cleaning, or I'll honestly have an audiobook in one of my ears when I'm grocery shopping. Something that doesn't require a lot of like brain power, I can stick on an audiobook and utilize that. And I'm sure there's gonna be some people sitting there being like, well, audiobooks activate different parts of the brain. And fine, that's true. But at the end of the day, you're getting the same information out of it. And some people retain information better through hearing rather than visually reading something. We also can't forget that audiobooks are hugely accessible. If you are a reader who shames people for preferring audiobooks or only using audiobooks and saying, that's not real reading, you're welcome to leave this channel. Bye! But I am serious. It is hugely accessible. It's really great to have when you're just out and about. I know people, I don't really work out super regularly, but I know I and several of my friends will listen to audiobooks when we go out on a run or when we're just lifting. And that's fine if you guys need music to do so. But the point is, anytime you're doing something that doesn't require a whole lot of brain power, use audiobooks. And then going back to the accessibility thing, if you are visually impaired, if you have dyslexia, if you honestly just don't feel great about your reading pace, that's okay. There is no shame to that. And I actually recommend checking out audiobooks. If you're in America, there's a great app called Libby that connects to your local library. You would have to look it up to make sure. I'm not going to say it's going to definitely connect to yours, but it's unlimited audiobooks as long as you have a library card. So definitely check that out. So we've already talked about building a habit. If you read a little bit every single day, you're going to find yourself reading more, period. If you utilize your free time efficiently, so if you're limiting screen or TV time, or if you're bringing a book with you to places where you know you're going to have some downtime and or you're just going to sit and scroll on your phone, read a book instead. And then of course, utilize audiobooks. The next one I have that is also a little bit about time efficiency, kind of like that audiobook and like the less screen time / bring a book. Another one that is really about reading efficiency is not being afraid to not finish something. Don't be afraid to DNF. Now, if you are anything like me, this is the big thing that I really struggle with, is DNFing, because I am someone of the mind where I'm like, well, I started the book, I feel like I have to finish it. No, it's a waste of time. If you're sitting there, if you're just getting back into reading, you picked up a book that you don't necessarily like, do you think it's going to make you enjoy reading more if you decide to keep reading it, force yourself through it until you finish it, or you just stop reading overall? There's a big thing about reading slumps where if you read a book bad enough, you can put yourself into slump and you just have no desire to read. DNF that book. It's okay. Like you can truly read. If you decide your threshold is if at 50 pages you still aren't interested in this book, shut it, put it down. That's okay. That you are not a bad reader if you don't finish something. If you decide, I'm gonna bow out of this. And sometimes I have to say this truly for myself too, because I'm like, well, I already started the book, blah, blah, blah. No. You can DNF a book. And it'll save you more time in the long run because you're not gonna spend 2, 3, 4 weeks trying to struggle through a book that you hate when you could just shut it if you don't like it and move on to something you are going to enjoy. Which brings me to my next point. Explore different types of reading. Now, if you pick up a novel and you're like, oh, I'm really struggling to hold my attention on this. There's a little too many words on my page. It's really messing with my dyslexia. Do you have something to say? But if you're looking at something being like, it's really not for me, explore other mediums. So if too many words on a page is too much for you, pick up a graphic novel or a comic book series. If you need a little bit less details in the text and you need your paragraphs a little more segmented, pick up plays. If you truly just don't want to spend all the time that it takes to read a 300-page novel and like have to patiently get through that whole story, pick up short stories. If you really are just struggling through a 400-page nonfiction book about bugs, just read an essay, you know? All type of reading is good reading. When I say a reader, I don't mean, oh, you read, you always have a novel on you. That's not the case. You can be a reader who exclusively consumes poetry. You can be a reader who really just has a massive graphic novel collection. That's cool too. Everything is great when it comes to that. You're still reading no matter how you're reading. And that brings me to my sixth and final point. Seek out things that interest you. I know that seems like a no-brainer, but if you are someone who really doesn't like the classics, don't waste your time on the classics. Great. If you are someone who exclusively is like, you know, I just really love romance, just read romance books. Whatever, you don't, like, your requirements for being a reader don't involve, oh, I have to read one classic a month, and one mystery a month, and one historical fiction a month. No, that's not, I mean, if you want to set those goals for yourself, great. If you all have been here for a while, you know I have some silly monthly goals for myself. But if you truly just find that you like one genre, stick to that genre. You can branch out later if you're really feeling like it, but if you decide, hey, I'm trying to get back into reading and I know the one thing that holds my attention is short horror stories, just read short horror stories. And that is a-okay. Perhaps this is just a video where I'm just talking at you and being like, hey, however you want to read is an okay way to read. But I really found that getting back into reading, the first book that I decided to get back into reading with was a vampire thriller, okay? And I've always been a big vampire fan, I've always been a big thriller fan, so I knew, hey, this is gonna be an excellent way to get me back into what I'm interested in. And it totally was. And I'm a pretty versatile reader, but once I ate that book up in like 2 days or something, I was like, all right, now I can pick up something else I'm interested in. I am very much a mood reader. I don't really go by a whole lot of other people's recommendations or like 30 books you should read in your lifetime. Like, I don't go by that. But what has kept me interested in reading is comic books and fantasy and a bunch of other things that might not be considered real reader behavior or whatever, you know? Another thing that I also recommend, 6.5, is if you want to challenge yourself with something you wouldn't typically read, before you do that, read something you love, and after you finish that, read something you love. We're trying to keep the momentum up. I would hate for you to read something you decided, hey, I read it, it was fine, it was a 3-star, when previously you've been reading 4 or 5-star books for you. Like, I wouldn't want that to slow your momentum down. So, just a little tip from me is, if you read something that's long, it's taking you a little longer, you find you're not as interested in it, follow up with some book that you know you're gonna enjoy. And that should help you get through it easier without messing up your momentum at all. Let's review, class. Let's review. Building a habit that is going to be your biggest friend. If you're reading 5, 10, 15, 30, an hour, 2 hours every day, depending on what you can handle. Obviously, I'm not going to assume every person I talk to has 3 hours a day to read. I know I don't. But build that habit. That was the number one thing that helped me get back into reading or get interested in reading, was truly just picking up something every day, trying to hit a goal of 30 minutes, but allowing myself to not hit that goal sometimes, as long as I picked it up and read at least a few pages a day. Using your downtime. That could be, if you use your downtime on screen time and you're trying to lessen that, pick up a book in it instead. If you are sitting somewhere waiting, bring a book with you in some capacity. You can, once again, even get apps on your phone where you can read ebooks. Utilize audiobooks. If you can't physically put your eyes on something, but you're doing a pretty mindless task, use audiobooks. You're getting the same information out of it, even if you're consuming it differently. You're still getting the same information out of it. Use audiobooks on your commute, when you're cleaning, when you're cooking. Things that everybody has to do. 4, not being afraid to DNF books. Don't waste your time on something that you know is not interesting to you. Shut it, put it down, return it to your library, donate the book, whatever you gotta do, but you can shut it. You are allowed to do that. Exploring different types of reading. Number 5, if you decide you're not a novel person, look into poetry, look into plays, look into short stories, look into essays. However you want to explore, do it. And then 6, perhaps the most obvious one, but one I feel like I need to say also, is pursue topics or genres or types of books that you know you enjoy. So yeah, that's today's video, but I am gearing up for a much longer video, so keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, it's so lovely to have you all here. Comment down below if you found one of the things I listed didn't necessarily work for you, or if you have something that wasn't even on the list that really worked for you. Put it down in the comments below. We are all here. If you want to restart your reading journey, if you want to start it for the first time, we are all here to encourage you. We all want you to be able to get into that. And I am here to provide any tips or any encouragement down in the comments below. If you liked this video, or you found something useful, or honestly you related to one of these points, give the video a little like. If you like being on this channel, if you've seen several of my videos now and you're interested, you can definitely go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you here. If you're already subscribed and you want to know when I post, turn on the notification bell. I post shorts multiple times a week. I post a longer form video every Sunday. And for today, get your few minutes of reading in. Start building your habit. Go find a book you know you're really going to enjoy. And of course, go utilize your local library. I will talk to you all later. Goodbye!